All right, welcome everyone. This video is designed to get you up and running with Suricata, building it from source, and the main goal here is to actually get rule profiling enabled. It's something you have to compile Suricata to do. This will give you insight into rule performance, whether you're writing rules or if you're troubleshooting rules to see if there's any that are having a performance impact on your setup. So to get started here, I'm just going to actually follow the documentation installation from Git on Ubuntu. I am using the latest version of Remnix. I think that's Ubuntu 20. So I didn't find any issues or problems here, but there are maybe just a couple of caveats. If you're like me, you don't live in Linux, some easy things to overlook. First things first, though, I'm going to grab the necessary packages that are required to compile. These are just pre-installation requirements. After that, you do need to execute these two commands, this export path and then the cargo install force cbind gen. I skipped that before going through this before I decided to create a video out of it and paid for it because it resulted in errors a little bit later down the road. It actually prevented me from finishing the setup. So let's get these commands done. A lot of these I'm just going to copy paste right from the documentation here. So you can see our pre-installation is done. Let's paste in the export, and then let's go ahead and we'll grab this command right here. I did find running this as a non-root user to work just fine, to actually be the most appropriate route. So most of these commands here are going to be prefix sudo or not. You should be able to follow those and have no problems. Now, I'm going to be running this not in IPS mode. I don't want this. This is not a production setup on a production system. I'm using this primarily for writing and testing rules. That's why I want the rule profiling enabled. So I am going to skip this step right here. However, next we are going to create the Suricata directory. Well, I'm actually not going to do that. You can if you want to create it and then change into that directory. But using the git clone, this will actually create a Suricata directory where the code will live. So it's a bit of an extra step there that we just don't need, or at least I don't think we need. And so I'm going to go ahead and skip it. This is going to take a few moments, so I'm going to let that finish before we go ahead and create that. The rest of these commands are pretty straightforward here. When we get to configure, I am going to run that, and it's going to provide some output to help us further customize our configuration. So we're going to actually run it again, mainly because I want to change some of the paths that Suricata is going to use. I want it to align with what an installation would look like from the binary packages. And then I'm going to do a full install. And I found that this is, for me, the easiest because this sets everything up. It creates the, as you can see here, this make or install comp. It's going to give you all the necessary directories. It's going to provide the Suricata YAML. We're going to get all of the rules from emerging threats open rule set. We could also just run Suricata update. And then it's also going to make it ready to run. So it'll be available and linked to the command line and whatever other magic has to happen there. So I have just found the install full to be the easiest thing to do. Okay, so let's go back to our terminal here. We still got a little bit of processing that needs to be done. Okay, so once that last command is finished, I'm going to go ahead and just copy this git clone command. This is going to give us the latest development version off the development branch. So if you're looking for a different source, go to the GitHub, check out what you want to get, change the link here appropriately based off of the branch or whatever you're looking for. But the development will be fine for purposes here. Looks like we're finally done with that last command. So I'm going to just paste this in, and now we'll clone. There we go. There's our Suricata directory that was just created, and pulling down all of the source code. So after that's done, we're going to navigate or change into that Suricata directory. And we're going to run this command. I haven't looked too much into a lot of these commands. I'm just kind of blindly following along. I did find, though, that you do need to run it from the root directory of the project. So let's change into that directory, and then we'll just paste that command in and run. You'll see that one won't take too long. Now we just need to run autogen. Yep, all right, already done. We'll paste that in. We'll let autogen run. This will take just a few seconds, and then I'm going to run configure in order to show you some of the output there to help with kind of making a few deviations here, or I guess a few customizations based off of your needs to finish and wrap up the installation here. Okay, now we're ready to run configure. This also takes just a few moments to do its thing. Okay, next steps here is we want to actually enable rule profiling. So if you dig into the documentation, you'll see here is the little bit about rule profiling. Mainly what we're going to get once we have this enabled is this rule performance log. And that's just going to be wherever your Suri is dumping its logs to whatever location, and we'll have information about rule performance. So it'll be really helpful and handy. You'll notice here in some of the output right now, because I did not provide that as an argument. Let's see if I can find it. Profiling enabled is no, right? And so we want to make sure that that is enabled. Another thing that we want to do, or that I want to do, is I want to just make sure that Suricata uses sort of the normal directories that it does if you were to install it using a binary package. And so basically, I just want to copy that command. I missed the dot, so I'll type that in manually, paste the rest of the command in, and then we'll hit the or add the enable profiling. Okay, so now we can run this again. And once that's done, then we are really in the home stretch, and that we can run make and then make install full. Okay, now we can go back and check profiling is now enabled. Perfect. Okay, now we're ready to run our final command. The only modification I'll make from the documentation is to add sudo to the make install instruction. And now we should be good to go. We can run suricata-v, and there we go. We've got Suricata version 8.0.0.dev, and then the last thing I'll do is I have this ingest pcap script. You can find this as a gist on my GitHub. The idea behind it is that we can use Suricata's offline mode to just process that pcap. So okay, if you try to run this script without using the sudo command, you're going to run into permission denied errors. The script is actually designed to be ran not as an administrative user. So to help with that, I do have a little bit of cleanup here. This all comes from the documentation, but I'll also make this add this to the video description and get a gist or something out there. But essentially, we're just adding, creating the Suricata group and then adding ourselves to it. So I'm going to run the cleanup script, and let's just try it. Maybe I don't need to. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and restart. Okay, after the restart, be able to run the script now. You'll see that there are no more permission denied errors. There is one warning, but that's just due to my script. I'm defining a custom rule file that I just don't have it. It doesn't exist yet, so that's no big deal. You can also install Evebox. I've got some videos on how to do that, but I don't have Evebox installed. That's just a part of that ingest script that I forgot to comment out. Where you'll find the logs also in that script is temp Suricata, and you'll see there is our rule performance log. So that just provides us with sort of a victory confirmation that we have this information now that we can look at and begin to sort of digest and understand what's going on. Okay, you may have noticed that that was in JSON data, or a JSON format. So if we look at the Suricata YAML and we go to, let's see here, it's going to take me a moment to get to the profiling area, but we'll get there. There we go. Here's the section that has our profiling. You'll notice that the output was to JSON. So if you add a hashtag in front of that to comment out that line and save it, now whenever you run Suricata, it won't produce that performance as a JSON file. And let's now take a look at that. This is going to be a little bit condensed here. So here we go. Now we have a format maybe a little bit more akin to what you were expecting to see in the documentation there. So up to you, however you want to look at this information or this data, but that's how you get it. But that's how you enable it and get it compiled into Suricata.